and later on. Okay, so I think we get started. Welcome to the fourth special Prime Edition, everyone. And this special NUS-PRIME editions, we started off this special edition in 2022, and this is the fourth series that we have. And I believe all of you might be very new to this series. Generally, this series aims to equip educators with practical strategies to strengthen their research and scholarship and to increase their success in publishing for an international audience. So today, we have a very, very special guest joining with us, Professor Erik Driessen. So Professor Erik Driessen will start off by sharing his presentation, and then we will proceed with Q&A. And we do have a few shortlisted abstracts that we are going to discuss. And hopefully we'll end this session by 6. So let me introduce our special guest today, Professor Erik Driessen. He's a professor at the School of Health Professions Education at Maastricht University in the Netherlands. I believe he's not strangers to all of you. He's also served as the editor-in-chief of Perspectives on Medical Education. His work focuses on how we learn and access in workplace, specifically in mentoring and portfolios. I believe if you read a lot of articles in portfolio or mentoring, you will see his name as the author in it. So he's also deeply involved in meta research, especially around responsible research conduct. And on top of that, his work is truly international. He mentors PhD students from around the world and collaborates on all kinds of exciting projects from research to consultancy. So today, Prof Driessen will be sharing with us an editor's perspective on how to get your scientific work published. So if you are struggling with getting your research into right journal and wonder where to go, you might want to stick around for this one. So let us welcome Prof Erik Driessen for his presentation first.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lee, for this introduction and your kind words. I'm really honored and excited to be a part of this session. What I would like to share with you is I'm an editor for Perspectives on Medical Education now for 12 years. And I will focus on what are reasons that papers are rejected and how to overcome that. And yeah, we all have experience that it can be difficult to get your paper published. I have a lot of experience with rejections of my papers with all kinds of journals. And I would like to share my experience both as an author and as an editor with you. Okay. So it starts, you are doing research and you've done a study, you write it up, and then you submit it to a journal. And that can feel like entering a beach during a war, because a lot more papers die than get alive and be published in a journal. So this is an acceptance rate for our journal, for Perspectives on Medical Education. So 60% of the manuscript is rejected without being sent for review. So that means that an editor has read the title and the abstract, maybe scanned the manuscript, and has decided not to send it out for review. Then 15% is rejected after review and 25% is accepted. So you could say when you have passed the first screening by the editor, your chances are much higher. So I will focus on this rejected without review. How to recently I submitted a paper to the JAMA and the American Journal for biomedical journal, and we were desk rejected within 24 hours. So a lot of those big biomedical journals, they have professional editors, and they do a lot of desk rejections within a short period. So I'll focus, what are the main reasons for those desk rejections? Now, the one thing is, I don't know if you are familiar with this comic book. It's about Asterix and Obelix, two warriors in the period that the Romans conquered Europe, and they conquered all of France except of one small village. And Julius Caesar, the emperor of Rome, was not able to conquer that small village. And why do I use this picture? Because we're all based in an institute, in a school, in a medical school, a nursing school, whatever. So that could be Singapore, that could be Maastricht, that could be Hong Kong, that could be Kuala Lumpur, any city. Often we do our study about the education we develop and implement in our institution. But how things work in, for example, Maastricht is less relevant for Singapore or Kuala Lumpur or Memphis or Tokyo. So I think the number one reason for papers to be rejected, that it has local relevance for my institution or your institution, but not of a more general audience. So an example of a rejection message of one of my editors is editor's comments: at the end of the paper, we are left with the experience of US schools. So this was about a paper from the US. To me, as a European faculty developer, so the editor was from Europe, and workplace-based clinical teacher, so he was a clinician or she was a clinician. This has limited relevance to my practice. I think the same goes for the large majority of prospectus for medical education's readership. So this was a paper that explored experience of US schools with something, but the results of the study didn't have relevance for people outside of the US. So how can you overcome this? So what the trick is that you use your context. So for example, Maastricht or Kuala Lumpur or Singapore, as an opportunity to study a problem that has relevance for others. So if you want to study, for example, team-based learning in Singapore, it is important that you use Singapore and how you and team-based learning in Singapore to explore, for example, if the sorry
about study, that,
if there's a difference between tutors who are faculty or that you have student tutors, and using student tutor instead of faculty tutors is something that's relevant for many different institutes. So look at your own context as an opportunity to study a problem that has relevance for others too. So this is a quote from one of our editors, Lorelei Lingard, and think of your paper or presentation as a contribution to a scholarly conversation. So there's a conversation going on in the literature about, can you use student tutors and do they teach differently than faculty tutors? And how can you contribute to that discussion? What are the main questions still open? What are the debates? Things like that. And but then the question is, how do I know which scholarly conversations are going on in the literature? Now, how do you know this? Now, the first thing is read a lot. Read different journals. Then you know. I hope you recognize this movie. It's The Reader, beautiful book, but also a beautiful movie. A little bit a sad movie. If you often people look at me, Erik, I don't like to read. You know, I'm modern, and modern people don't read. So an alternative is that you listen to podcasts. There are several podcasts that discuss healthcare education research papers. Unfortunately, the papers podcast has stopped recently, but they have many old episodes, so that's a possibility. And another possibility is that you talk with other people. We have a large community, and I appreciate our community because most people are helpful to others, especially to people who are new in the field, and so talk with other people. And if you're in a conference, ask somebody, "Do you have time for a cup of coffee or a cup of tea?" Most people will say yes to an invitation like this, and then you can ask, "I'm studying student teachers, and what do you think? Is that an important? What are the main questions?" Things like that. So these are things that can help you to find out which conversations are going on and what are the big questions. So my question to you, you don't have to answer it now, but what are you doing now to track the conversations to track the conversations you plan to join with your current study? What kind of activities? Have you read a lot? Have you talked to other people? Maybe you listen to podcasts or do other things? And good to think about that. And also share things that have helped you with your colleagues. Now, this was so that it has local relevance and not relevance for a broader international audience. That's number one reason for papers to be rejected, not only for perspectives, but also for other journals like medical education, advances for medical education, academic medicine. So what's the number two reason for paper rejection? That's you write it as if you are alone on the world. I don't know if you know this movie. It's Wall-E. I have seen it a couple of times, and I still enjoy it every time I see it. And Wall-E is this small robot who's completely alone at the world. All humans have disappeared, and he is there alone. So that's also what you often see in papers. So I'm a teacher from Maastricht, and as my introduction was told, I was enthusiastic about portfolios, and I developed portfolios in Maastricht. And what often happens, you think, oh, portfolios are a good idea. I implement them, and then I ask our students if they liked it or not, or if it works or not. But in almost any case, there have been others who have done similar things. So they, like for example, in my time with portfolios in teacher education and in nursing, they had gained quite some experience from with portfolios. So if you write about portfolios or web-based learning or whatever, and you don't use the existing literature, that's a big issue, because science works that you continue to build on work of others. So again, in response of one of the editors of our journal, there's little consideration of theoretical underpinning, which would allow you to interpret your findings through a lens of an established way of thinking. Therefore, it is unclear what generalizable lesson for the theory and practice of health profession education this work currently offers to a broad international readerships. So if you do a study, it is important that you look at what have others done before, and then maybe that was not in your discipline, maybe it was not in that kind of surgery, but maybe it was done in internal medicine or in general medicine. And the work in these contexts are also relevant for your work. So my tip is use existing knowledge and theory and develop a sound study design. Yeah. Now, again, how do you do this? Reading. If you don't like to read, listen to podcasts, talk with others. I think most people will recognize this movie and those two people, and Pulp Fiction, this is. And another important thing, science is teamwork. So you don't need to have all expertise yourself. If you want to do a study and use grounded theory, you can find somebody who has experience with that kind of methodology. Or if you want to do something with e-learning, you can invite somebody who has expertise with e-learning. So think about science as working with a team and find your own A team. And what's also really important, find your Eve. Wall-E was accompanied by a small robot called Eve. Find your buddy. Find somebody either in your own institution or at another school that you can discuss your research plans, somebody that you can trust, that you can also send the first draft of your paper, and that can help you with thinking, be critical and think, does this build on existing literature and theories? So think about how can you find your scientific Eve, your scientific buddy. Then the last reason, major reason for paper rejections is the news value. So you have done this cool study on portfolios in Maastricht. You use the work of others on portfolios within medicine, but also in other medicine. But then your paper is still rejected. And this has to do that it is old news, that many others have come to the same conclusion. So this is again one of the responses of the editors of the submitted manuscripts. While you have clearly put considerable effort into your study, it is unclear what new generalizable lessons your findings bring to the theory and practice of health. So you expect that a paper brings something new. It doesn't have to be completely new, but you should add something. Now, again, what can be helpful is to have a critical person that looks over and that discuss with you, is this new or do we already know this? And that's important before you start with your study. So as I have told you, I have a long history of rejections. As a scholar, I've been rejected often. Everybody is rejected. Don't think that somebody who publishes a lot is never being rejected or had never to revise their papers. So practice and try to learn from your experiences. So like with the 24 hours rejection of a recent paper by the JAMA, that was on a paper on AI and authorship. We reread our paper and submitted it to academic medicine, where it's now on the review. So practice and try to learn from the feedback you get from the journal. By the way, this movie, I don't know if you have recognized this, is Shining with Jack Nicholson. So to summarize this, before you submit your paper, actually, before you start with the study, think, is the topic important for this journal's audience? Is this the right journal? Or should it be a general education journal, or a healthcare education journal, or more a specialist journal like a journal about simulation or a journal about orthopedic surgery. So find the right audience and think, is the topic important for this audience? And then is the study either relevant for a national audience? If you will submit your paper to a national journal, there are many national journals which serve a good purpose. You could see as academic medicine also as a national journal for the US. And is it national relevant not only for your colleagues like in Maastricht, but also for more international audience? Does my story contribute to a new insight to a conversation that's going on around the topic? Does it tell something new about portfolios? And will people read it? So is there any new value? What is important, is it well written? If a paper is clearly written and is concise, people will read it more easily than when it's long and it has a sloppy writing. So this is what I wanted to share with you about my experience as an author and as an editor, about reasons for rejections and how to overcome them. These are some reading tips. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Prof. Driessen, for the presentation. Let me check from the chat whether there is any questions. Okay, at the moment, no, but then we do welcome you to put up your questions, okay? As shared by Erik, he has been the editor-in-chief in Perspective for 12 years, so he has a lot of experience. It would be good that you all put in your questions so that we can learn from his experience as well. Oh, okay. Can you recommend a few podcasts?
Yeah, you have had the Keyline podcast, but they stopped some years ago. And then I was a big fan of the paper podcast, but they have also stopped. So actually, if you would like to start a podcast, this is about healthcare education research. This is the moment to pick this up, to do this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Oh, okay. Jujipa has another question. According to many studies such as Bo J. et al., how to address the geographical bias in academic publishing, BMJ Global Health, there is a bias towards author from non-Western setting, which have the journals such as yours perspective taken to mitigate this issue.
Yeah, this has been an issue from the day that I have started, and as an editor, and I see it. You know, if an author comes from the USA or Canada or Northern Europe, and they study, for example, now let's take my own portfolios, they will not address national culture. But if the author is from Singapore or from countries others than these Western countries, they say culture plays an important role. But why should it be different than the culture plays in the Netherlands? It could be a big role too. So I'm aware of this bias, and we've done a lot of work to overcome this as a journal. So we have deliberately looked for editors from non-Western regions, like Dujipa, you have been an editor too for our journal.
Yep.
Other things is that we often language can play a role, so that we have a policy that if the study is sound and it has a news value and it builds on work of others, that we help authors with the language. So that's another policy. And we have started a fellowship program, and we have some good experience with that. and we purposefully give priority to fellows from non-Western countries. So we have now, there are 3 new fellows started, and 2 are from Asia and 1 from Europe. So yeah, but it is it's the systematic bias, and it's difficult to overcome, but we try to do several things. Yeah, thank you.
I believe it is still existing until now. So a lot of editors in chief are taken steps in mitigating this issue. There's another question coming in. Yeah. Would you recommend the writer email the editor first to ask if the journal paper is relevant or suitable?
Only if you really doubt. You know, yes. So if you are in doubt, then it can be helpful. So I get questions in which kind of paper section, what kind of channel, is this a review or is this more conceptual paper, questions like that, or does it fit with the scope of the journal, questions like that. That are good questions. If you send to the editor your complete manuscript and ask kind of review before you submit it, editors don't have time for that.
Yeah. I think editors must have received a lot of such requests. And then how do you filter those relevant who want to see or to take a look?
I don't filter, I answer all questions. And I know, I can't speak for all editors, but I know that the editors that I really know do the same. I answer every question about the paper.
Oh,
yeah, maybe
there
could, you know, I receive a lot of mails. If somebody is there who haven't been answered, then your mail has slipped through my inbox. But normally I answer all questions. Yes.
Oh, that's good to know. I think the participants here, I will be sending you a lot of emails as well.
Yes.
Okay. So I do have a question for you, Erik. Because you mentioned about having a very strong theoretical framework or a conceptual framework would be helpful in getting your work published. But I think that's what our authors are struggling with as well. So what would be your advice in having a good theoretical basis in your paper? How do you write that? Yeah.
That's a very good question and an important question, Dr. Lee. I think this is an issue for everybody. You know, this is really difficult. And there are differences between journals. You know, like Advances in Health Science Education, that's probably the most theoretical journal in our field. Yeah, there you need a lot of theory. I think journals like Perspectives on Medical Education or Medical Teacher are. I see my journal as on the crossroad between theory and practice. But how to find it's not like a jacket that you put on and then so it must add something to the paper. And my advice would be, actually what I said, the best thing is look at papers that you really like about the same topic. How have they done it? And ask other people's. You know, I have this idea for a study. Do you know any relevant empirical studies or theory? And it doesn't have to be a big theory with a capital T. It can also be work that has been done by others about the same topic.
All right. Thanks so much. I think that addresses some of the questions that our participants have, especially writing up this theoretical conceptual framework section.
Yes. Can I
So
add something about that?
yeah,
On
sure.
that, Doctor?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I think it's almost like we have a secret language in the journals. And if you are not very experienced with publishing, it's almost impossible to discover this new language. You know, we have so much requirements for a paper, and that's not good, I think. And sometimes the reviews that you get back are longer than the paper. And that's quite intimidating for authors. So what I try, I will not be always successful with this, but at least what we try is, if your paper has practical relevance, and if you have looked to the literature what others have done about this, that should be enough. You know, it doesn't have that you have read Foucault and use his works, and Habermas and other big philosophers, and that you know all the jargon. If you use that's if you're going to do that, it's probably doesn't feel genuine. So find work that's relevant for you and is useful for you. And I think also as journals we should be. Sometimes I think we are too much focused on this theory.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for the additional thought and opinions. Somehow, I think there's no more questions.